Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is James Lee, aka Jams to Blues, artist, Guinness World Record holder, and Web3 philanthropist. James is the creator of Save the World with Art, an environmentally sustainable Web3 venture empowering artists to manage their own on-chain NFTs. Hi, James. Where are you right now, and how is the weather?
It's actually pretty sunny outside right now. It's chilly, but we're in Tullahoma, Tennessee, way down here in the Bible Belt. And I am happy to be on here talking about Tezos and the future of Web3, evolution of NFTs. I'm a huge fan of Tezos. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I came out of the art closet in 2019, and no one really knew who I was, but very quickly, made a name for myself, and I'm internationally exhibited all over the world.
Right on.
Using that, try to get in, breaking into the ground as far as philanthropy goes, because that's what I'm all about. Save the World with Art started when I became a father, and I wanted to leave something behind. So.
Well, we're going to get into all of that, but before we get into anything else, can you tell us the story of how you became a Guinness World Record holder?
Sure. Yeah. I've had Tourette syndrome, and I've had some pretty severe tics and uncontrollable compulsions since about the age of 11. Used to be a lot worse. My mom put a guitar in my hands when I was 11, made my tics go away completely. Gave me a new sense of control, something to focus on. And I took it from there and practiced a minimum of 5 to 6 hours a day ever since. I'm 36 years old now, so it's been a while. And, I wanted to do something with it, something big, a publicity stunt, whatever, anything with guitar. And the first thing I could think of was, why don't I just try to play the longest guitar solo ever? And I did it. I looked it up. The current record holder, or the previous record holder, David D. Donato, played at a bar promoting his band MODOK. Very talented musician, also a guitar teacher. He played for 24 hours and 55 minutes without taking a break. And it was an original improvised guitar solo. I wanted to one-up him and make it really hard to beat, which I did. Guinness World Records allowed him to take a 5-minute break every hour. When I did my guitar solo, I live streamed it on X and a bunch of different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, using OBS to stream live. And, I played for 25 hours and 15 minutes without taking a break at all. I wore an adult diaper and I did what I had to do. And it happened, trust me.
That's
but
dedication.
At the end of the video, if you go to jamstoblues.art, I recorded the whole thing and you can see it there. My fingers were bleeding at the end of it.
Over 25 hours in a chair playing guitar.
Yes, sir. And I did it for charity, of course.
Okay.
The charity I was supporting at the time was Stepping Stone Safe Haven. They're a local homeless shelter that's really close to where I live. And, I went and met with their director of philanthropy, and I got to see how they function, how they take women and children in and save them from domestic violence issues and give them an opportunity to be able to get their IDs back and get them back on the map. Yeah. People don't understand that, how hard it can be to get your identity back, especially even if it's something simple like your house burned down, your birth certificate, your social security card, and your driver's license are gone now. How do you get that back? Well, you need an address. You need to have mail to prove that you're a U.S. citizen getting mail at that address. It's hell for some people. And some people, they never recover because they don't have the help. And that's what this place does. So we raised some money for them with the guitar solo. And every time someone donated, I shredded even harder.
That's amazing. Well, now that we've cleared that up, can you tell us a bit about your personal background and your journey into the exciting world of blockchain technology?
Yeah, sure. I didn't really know what Web3 or NFTs were in 2021. I had some friends that I've always been into crypto, just selling and buying crypto, and I didn't really pay too much attention to Web3 news. It's very new, it's still growing, and we're hitting the ground floor with a lot of really crazy innovation that's changing the internet as we know it. And I had some friends that were like, dude, you're a really good artist. You need to just start minting your artwork and it'll sell. You're a lot better than some of the stuff I've seen out there. And so I tried it, and in my first week, I was making $200-300 of artwork, and I thought that was amazing. I was like, no way. So I dug a little deeper and got involved in a lot of the communities, and then I found my home at Tezos, the largest artist community in Web3, and that's where I'm going to stay. Biggest thing for me there was the low carbon footprint. You know,
Mm.
all these things I've been building for myself with the philanthropy, save the world with art, just really meshed well with Web3, especially with the ethos that Tezos has with their smart rollups and their low carbon footprint. And uh, so I just made it a permanent part of what we do.
Yeah. And on top of being a Guinness World Record holder, as you mentioned, you've also been an artist for quite some time. Um, as far as enter, like people telling you that you should enter this world and getting involved, what excited you about the sort of intersection between blockchain tech and art, and inspired you to dive in?
That's a really good question. I'm one of the first people to become said professional at Adobe Photoshop, digital art. When I was in high school, that was some of the first classes they were teaching us how to use Photoshop, and some of the first groups of people to be able to make digital art with Photoshop. And I've been using it for a really long time, for over 20 years. And uh, my experience with that is you don't make money making digital art, do you?
Mm.
How do you credit someone that is making digital assets, period? That blew my mind away, that code can create an immutable form of authenticity and proof that your artwork belongs to someone, and then there's royalties and there's all the cool stuff that comes with that. I was sold immediately as soon as I found out about that. I was like, I've got to get more into this because it's a revolution. And since I've been in it for the last 3 years, I mean, I've seen, being in the world of fine art for so long, what kind of a movement this is. It is probably the largest art movement since pop art in the 60s. It is proliferate and it is everywhere, and every country is a part of it. It's amazing. And I didn't want to miss out on that.
Okay.
So
And once you did jump in and get inspired and discover all the things that you discovered, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the space as an artist and what that has been like?
yeah, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've learned a lot of mistakes, and have been helping people that are getting into it now, learning from those mistakes that I made. Web3 is a very fast growing, very fast paced. Like 5 minutes feels like 10 years has passed. In Web3, there's something coming out fast and fresh constantly, just because the competition is insane, and the room for growth from the floor is also unbelievably large, uh, because of decentralization, because of people being able to pool their resources together without having to rely on corporations to be able to do this. It's pretty awesome. And when I got into this, and the reason why I stayed is because it I did learn from those mistakes, and I started to profit. But in the beginning, it was rough. It was
Mm.
hard, just like everyone else. I had to learn. There's a pretty large language community and a lot of things that are difficult about it. I'm lucky that I have a background in network engineering. I've been a network administrator for over 15 years with really advanced backbone network, infrastructure and server administration, and I've even worked with NASA and Boeing and stuff like that. But um, that comes in handy with this. But also, how do we get more and more people that aren't that technically, don't have that expertise into this? And
Mm.
there's a lot of platforms out there that have launched to make it easy, like object.com for Tezos. And now for me, newer technologies that are starting to hit the ground floor like hard, and people are starting to notice like fully on chain stuff more often.
Mm.
But it's difficult. How do you get into that? Well, I mean, I created savetheworldwithart.io, which allows you to go through all of this really difficult coding stuff just in plain English without any experience with code, be able to launch your NFTs fully on chain and list them on object.com. So I mean, it's constantly growing. It's getting better, and it has to do with community members like yourself making this information accessible to everyone and much more easy to understand to get rid of the really insane language community barriers for the technology and just put it in plain simple English so that everyone can access it. And that's where we're headed. And I think that's probably why global NFT sales across the board have quadrupled in the last month, because it is getting easier. And I mean, that's a really good statistic to be looking at as far as crypto is concerned.
That is an interesting statistic for sure. But you've had a presence here in the Tezos ecosystem for a number of years. Can you tell us how you originally found your way to Tezos?
Yeah, I originally started out on a platform called voice.com. They had their own private blockchain. They were doing things their own way. They were one of the many, unfortunately, startups that went under in their first year of launching something with Web3. And I needed somewhere to go after that. I was an ambassador with them, and I was doing very well with voice. And unfortunately, I lost quite a bit with them when they went under. And I also learned the hard way, like I said, the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things with Web3. They weren't doing it the right way. They weren't ready for all the changes and the decentralized part of things. So that's what I'm more focused on. Object.com, Tezos, before them was Hen, the Hen Network, created I can't ever say that right. That Latin word.
You were close.
But the essentially, doing my own research and learning about all the different communities out there, it just was a best fit for me and what I'm trying to do. The art, to me, is better across the board. There's more artists, and I'm about supporting art and artists. That's why I call it Save the World with Art. I trademarked it, and I did it for a reason, so that no one else could steal that idea and no one else could use it for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
I love the art community on object.com specifically, and on the fully on chain now NFTs made with the zero contract by Yestem Zero. I'm a huge fan of all of that, and I decided to stay because I mean one of my largest followings is there, and it didn't take long to grow. So if you're new to NFTs, object.com Tezos is an amazing, getting your foot in the door. It's an amazing place to start, and it's the easiest. And if you're not sure how to list or what your prices need to be, it's not the most expensive marketplace, so everyone can be a part of it. And I'm a bigger fan of everyone being a part of something than I am, the upper echelon where you have to be in some kind of special inner circle in order to be successful in Web3. And that's not what decentralization is all about. I think that Tezos follows a better roadmap as far as including everyone. That's why I'm sticking with it.
So that journey, as you mentioned, has led you to create Save the World with Art, which I mentioned briefly off the top. For those who might not be super familiar just yet, what exactly is Save the World with Art?
Save the World with Art it's an idea. And it started out, it's a lot more than it was when I first started. I initially started with a partnership with the Rainforest Trust and several endangered conservation efforts for great white sharks and polar bears and emperor penguins, and just trying to help our feathered and scaled cousins all over the world stay alive with us, because we need them. We don't know. I mean, medically, everyone's heard that eventually one day in the future, we're probably going to wish that we hadn't killed rattlesnakes because their venom had a toxin in it that saved someone's life later on in an invention through science and medicine. I mean, that's very true. Toxic I'm not sure if you know this, but rattlesnake venom, there's a toxin in it that helps during open heart surgery to keep blood from clotting. And without rattlesnakes, so many people would not be here right now.
Mm.
It's very important to me and to the rest of the living world that we keep these things alive and we keep ourselves alive. And it's just grown since then. So I've always sold my art and donated the money that I got from it to charity. Long before I was even in NFTs or Web3, I was always creating, like spending ridiculous amounts of time creating hyper realistic portraits for people for free and just making them feel good about existing. Now they have something that's immortalized, that's signed by Jams to Blues. I've been an exhibited artist since I was 14 years old. My first art piece was exhibited in the Frist, which was a hyper realistic drawing of a wine glass with a cowboy hat on top. And, you know, I love art. I love creativity. I'm always saying that art is a monolith and testament to our fleeting existence in this universe, and that it means something because we, as a species, it's what separates us from the rest of them.
Mm.
We're aware, and we have the ability to do something about it, not just for other people, but for the ones that don't know any better, like
Yeah.
the penguins. You know, so Save the World with Art has been growing ever since, and now in Web3, a minimum of 5%, sometimes a lot more, but that's our ethos: is a minimum of 5% of all of our net profits goes to our partner Ecology for afforestation, for renewable energy projects, for carbon removal and awareness all over the world. And we've planted, over 1,000 trees so far since we partnered with them and started doing this through just sales on Tezos.
Mm.
And we've removed over 12 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere and funded a huge project that helps, solar energy, renewable energy projects in Brazil, and landfill projects to convert the gas that's produced from landfills into energy that can be used in cities. So it's growing, and it's not only is it profitable, but we're actually saving the world with art, and it's a dream come true that this is something that I started as, a gee whiz kind of thing to see if it would take off, and it just so happens that the people needed it and the
Yeah.
people wanted it, so that's why they keep buying my art, and that's why we keep trying to save the world with it.
Very cool. And another big part of your participation in the Tezos art community and what you're doing with Save the World with Art centers around supporting new artists in the space and helping bring attention to their work. Can you talk a bit about about what has driven you to make that such a big priority for yourself?
Well, as I said before, above anything else and beyond any other species separate from the human race, we are number one. We need to survive. The testament that I told you about creativity, I believe that using your imagination, being creative, essentially is a path to cognitive evolution. That's my philosophy. There's a crap ton of science out there that supports that philosophy. Um, and that not only does it support cognitive evolution, but it helps through mental health issues. Anyone that struggles with mental health issues or is neurodivergent, which, like I am, I have weapons grade neurodivergence. uh, Art is the best therapy, in my opinion. And I think that supporting other artists is just as big of a part of being a creator on the blockchain. If you're not supporting the ecosystem, you're just putting more and more things into it without giving back, then it's not really an ecosystem. So a large portion of our sales outside of the charitable things that we do goes to pooling up a big savings for an art prize semi-annually. And this is our ninth art prize that we're doing now, currently 12 days left to be able to enter over $1,000 in Tezos worth of prizes for first, second, and third place. And we've been doing this for about 3 years now. So we've had our ninth art prize. So you can tell how well we're doing, because I said semi-annually, but depending on how well we're doing, sometimes we have one every month.
Yeah.
And I love to be able to curate and go through and find and separate what I believe to be decoration from fine art and celebrate those who are putting everything that they have into their creativity, because that should be rewarded. We're living in a new age where AI is starting to slowly take over really boring jobs. And that's the way it should be. But what are we going to do with our time? I think we need to start becoming more creative. Everyone needs to start becoming more creative so that we can expand into this crazy infinite universe with really big ideas and ways to be able to conquer whatever's next and to survive. So I don't know. It's a big kind of, really philosophical thing for me, but I know a few thousand artists that agree, and
Mm.
that I've met over the course of the last 3 years, and have had really good conversations with people from all over the world. Before Web3, I had one friend in Sri Lanka that I used to talk to for a while. He would send me green tea, and I would send him cell phones.
Good trade.
So, but he, you know, since I've joined Web3, I've got friends in almost every country now. This is unbelievable. It's opened my eyes. The world of creativity and art, it is fueling something. Let me ask you this. Just this question for you: do you know what the driving factor behind the evolution of machine learning and artificial intelligence was?
The driving factor?
Yes, what was it?
I mean, I assume it's finding ways to help it make people more money.
Right, right. That would be the root of all driving factors in the human sense. But I'll tell you what actually drove the evolution of AI as it is today was generative art.
Mm,
How do we get AI to have an imagination? That was the first thing to come out. I mean, Google Deep Dream's been doing it for a really long time and for free. It was something you didn't have to buy.
yeah.
You could just go to Google Deep Dream and deep dream really crazy things. And then, of course, OpenAI comes out of the can with this huge crazy LLM that changes everything. It's being used to create very specific cures for certain types of cancer in Australia right now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The driving factor for that, and why I say art is the cognitive evolutionary force behind, and creativity behind our cognitive evolution, is because if artists weren't trying to figure out how to make AI make better images, we wouldn't have ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay. If we can go back to the Save the World with Art prize for a moment.
Sure.
You mentioned you've been running it for a number of years, currently in the ninth iteration. And I believe that's open for submissions right now.
Yes, sir. It's on my pinned X post at Jams2Blues. That's my tag everywhere. I've branded myself and made it simple so that it's easy to find me everywhere at Jams2Blues. And the pinned post goes to artprize.savetheworldwithart.io. That's our subdomain where I'm hosting a custom submission form where you just connect your Kukai, your Temple wallet, and you copy and paste your object link and put your Twitter handle, and it updates a spreadsheet that I have.
Okay.
And I can go through and curate the list of entries. We've had a lot of entries so far. There's 12 days left to enter. And this art prize specifically is only for fully on chain art. And all the steps for that competition, they're there, and the ways to be able to create these NFTs fully on chain are also there. SaveTheWorldWithArt.io is the interface I created using Yestem Zero's zero contract to be able to make it easy for everyone to be able to make an entry. And it doesn't require any technical expertise. You can just, like you would on Object, type in your metadata, give it a name, a symbol, a description, a creator address, and then deploy the contract. And then you can mint, burn, and transfer NFTs using that same interface to that contract or that collection.
Okay. And that's open to everyone.
That's open to
anyone
everyone.
watching this could go and enter.
Yes, sir. Anybody watching can go and enter. And
there's $1,000 worth of Tez on offer
yep.
to the top 3 winners.
First place is $600 worth of Tezos. Second place is $300 worth of Tezos. And third place is $100 worth of Tezos.
Okay.
And I'll be either, if the artist wants me to just send them the prize, we will. They'll also be getting a fully on chain signed certificate from Save the World with Art slash Jams to Blues Creations LLC, based out of Paloma, Tennessee, a physical art business. And we will, uh, we can either send them the prize money. My favorite thing to do, though, I prefer if they list it for auction, then I can create a really high starting bid for them. So get them trending on the front page of object.com. And hopefully other collectors will start to notice and make bids on these pieces too. I've done that in the past and it's always gone really well. And we get into bidding wars with the winning entrants of our art prizes. And larger collectors start to notice,
Very
we're
cool.
going through the effort to really curate this list. I have a lot of experience in virtually every field of visual art that there is, whether it be generative coding projects in P5JS, all the way to creating my own trained LLMs, to physical hand-drawn, hyper-realistic chiaroscuro pieces, or acrylic artwork and painting. I have a lot of experience. I've been doing it for a long time. So when I go through these lists to curate the winners, it's coming with that experience. And then this one is different. This art competition is going to be community curated.
Okay.
So after I go through and I select the top 10 from what I believe is the creme de la creme of all the entries, the community is going to vote for which ones I buy.
Cool. Very cool.
We'll set up a poll on the same website, artprize.savetheworldwithart.io, and whoever gets the most votes at the end of said poll session will be first, second, and third place.
And there's 12 days to go to enter.
Yes, sir. 12 days left.
Okay. Now, I know that you touched on Save the World with Art's mandate to empower artists to manage their own on-chain NFTs a moment ago there. But I'd like to circle back on that point a little bit. Understand you mentioned that there's a strong connection between that aspect of what you're doing and the Zero contract, which was created by Yestem Zero, who we've also recently spoken with here at TezTalks. Can you talk a bit about how that partnership originally came into being?
Yeah. To be honest, my adventure into fully on-chain art wasn't on Tezos. It started on ETH. And the gas prices are exorbitant on ETH for minting artwork fully on chain. Because as you probably are already familiar, the difference between on-chain and off-chain art is how you're storing the artwork. You store it on an IPFS server, and then you're putting the link on chain. That's a lot less money in gas than putting the entire artwork itself directly on the chain, which is a lot more expensive to list. So I had done my research and gone through the whole process of learning how to mint NFTs fully on chain on ETH first. But only because there really wasn't an easy way to do it on Tezos yet. And I'd done a lot of research for about a month trying to figure out how to do it myself. And I run into Yestem Zero on X. I was pointed to him by Ella Brightlight. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a pretty popular NFT artist in Web3 and has a huge following as a big X Spaces host. And I learned a lot of this stuff going to her spaces. And she pointed me in his direction, and I looked at his pin post, and he had already figured out how to create a fully on-chain contract for Tezos. So I didn't have to do that work. So I used his contract, and our platform essentially goes through all of his steps and automates them so that you don't have to use any dev tools, and it makes it a lot more simple. That makes sense.
It does.
And that's how I met him, because I surprised him. He didn't really know I was doing this. I just built it, and I love to give credit where credit's due. So his name's all over the website. So it's his contract. That was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but it was also a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for me to automate the entire process.
Of course it was. So this is all great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more, but before we dive into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Let's do it.
Great, then it's lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you a night owl or an early riser?
I'm a night owl.
Exercise or naps?
I exercise sometimes.
Movies or video games?
Oh man, that's evil. I like them both so much. If I had to pick, I'd pick video games though.
Fair. What's your favorite country to visit for a vacation?
Iceland.
Interesting choice. If you were elected king of the world, what's the first thing you would do?
I would remove hunger.
Excellent answer. Name one thing you will never do again.
I will never smoke weed again. Unfortunately, can't
Ah,
do it again.
fair
I,
enough.
I, I get psychosis when I smoke weed, so I can't smoke weed. I
Fair enough. What's the secret to happiness?
would say um, having a really loving family and giving. The more that you give, the better uh, you know you feel about everything, and it shows when your kids get older too.
Our other question, I already know the answer to because I've seen them running around. Do you have any pets?
I do. I got two cats, a dog, and an axolotl behind me, albino, in that tank.
Everybody loves an axolotl, right? And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Play guitar.
Perfect. Those were excellent answers. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get back into it. Now that we've talked about your work supporting artists here in the Tezos ecosystem and beyond it, I'd like to delve into another important aspect of what you do, which is your philanthropic endeavors. In addition to, and often connected to your work in the Web3 and blockchain space, you also do, as you mentioned, a lot of charity work. Can you talk a bit about why you felt compelled to dedicate so much of your time and effort to supporting charitable causes?
Sure. Me, I do have a pretty crazy story as far as my life goes. A lot of people sometimes think I'm lying or making stuff up, but I've been through hell on earth. I started out my childhood with a severe neurological disorder, Tourette syndrome, and it was severe at the time, severe enough to where I couldn't hold a book to read until I was 11 years old. I used to have to hold books still with my feet, and that was the only way I could do it because my arms were constantly moving all over the place, and my shoulder was popping in and out, and my face and my nose, my tics were insane. And I grew up in an environment that wasn't favorable for any child in gangland in California. And I started off early, really, really, really bad. I was doing cocaine and meth by the time I was 14 years old, and my life was upside down. I just didn't have a good start. So getting from there to where I'm at now, you know, having a really good aunt and uncle that took me in at such a young age. They adopted me, changed my name. I used to be James Paul Fernandez. My adopted family's last name is Lee, so I changed my name to James Michael Lee because I thought having Paulie would be kind of a weird middle last name. Didn't want people calling me Polly. So James Michael Lee, that's what I changed my name to. Started my life all over again at a very young age, at 14. Went to high school after having skipped, uh, you know, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, not knowing if I'd even be good enough or smart enough to be able to take basic freshman classes. And I found out I was actually pretty smart. I ended up going all the way through high school with a 4.0 GPA and was selected for valedictorian. And I graduated at the top of my class and made it through all these really crazy things. Long story short, later on in my life, I became uh, I joined the military, Air Force, worked on the AWACS, NASA Skylab space station, IBM S360 mainframe computer, top troop, over 3,000 airmen, graduated early, got ranked up early, was always just the best at everything. But also carried with me a lot of weight and a lot of trauma that
Mm.
never got dealt with until much later in life. And I see that everywhere I go, with every human being I meet. I look into their eyes and I immediately feel whatever kind of really traumatic, messed up thing they have experienced or have yet to experience, such as loss, which is something we all inevitably are going to experience. but we're not prepared for it ever. And I just want to help people. I want to help people go through existence with a smile on their face, regardless of how traumatic things become.
Mm.
Because the more joy that you have in your heart and in your life, the more prepared you are for these traumas, and the more available you are to help everyone else around you. It's not just my job. Save the world with art is everyone's job that becomes a part of it.
Mm.
And the world could do with a lot more positive energy and positive thinking. And uh, I just it's my dream. It's my goal. Maybe the environment that I grew up in is the reason why I'm like this. I really don't know why I'm so fully compelled to be the way that I am. It's not rewarding. The only reward, like monetarily, it's not it. The biggest reward though
I was
is
gonna
when
say it's got to be at least a little bit rewarding.
the biggest reward would be the people
Yeah.
and how it affects their lives. And I've had so many people come to me out of nowhere and say, "Man, what you did for me the other day completely changed my life. I was able to put food on the table last night for the first time in weeks. We were eating, ramen or
Yeah.
leftover like canned corn and stuff, and to be able to do that for someone, it means the world to me because I grew up like that and I didn't
Yeah.
have that. No one ever helped me. I somehow survived,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't even be alive. But I'll be damned if I know the difference and I've lived the difference if I'm not going to do something about
Yeah. But you did survive, and here you are, and you're doing this
it.
work.
Right.
And as somebody who's actively involved with both charity work and blockchain technology, what do you see as the intersection between those two sort of seemingly disparate things? How do you think blockchain and charitable causes can benefit one another?
Well, blockchain technology is a decentralized ecosystem that allows for really huge offshoots and branches to come from any community member that becomes a part of it. Charity could benefit like insanely from this, which I've been trying to get a lot of these places to become a part of. One of the largest charitable groups that I have contributed to, that I've seen this economy be worth something in charity, like an example, is the Giving Block, and they're a huge part of Web3 and charity, and they've already basically broken into that intersection that you're talking about with charity and with Web3, and they help countless charities all over the world set up crypto wallets to where they could get continuous, donations and things. One of the biggest intersections for me is tracking. How do you prove that you're donating to someone, right? Well, I mean, everything is visible. All the money that I receive from Tezos sales of my art goes to a wallet. That wallet is traceable. You can see where the money's going,
Mm.
what accounts it goes to, and it's all completely transparent. It's how you remove the lie. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of places out there, unfortunately, that you know use charity as a guise for their own selfish gain. And you can strip that away completely by making it transparent and visible, and also tax deductible eventually if they ever implement that with cryptocurrency. That'd be nice. But uh, I know that the Giving Block lets you convert from cash to crypto, and they can let you do it that way. I'm working on that still as an art business. I haven't figured that out yet, but um, it is a huge part of it, and I think that intersection is less of an intersection now, more of a, well, what am I going to do as a person to help support and give where people need it most?
Mm.
I can go, for me. I'm 36 years old, and I am retired military, and I don't have to work. So I put all of my time, 40 plus hours a week, into helping as many people as I can with that opportunity. I don't want to just sit here and do nothing with the rest of my life or be selfish with it. I'd rather use all of that time that I was gifted for my circumstances in life to be able to help that intersection become more visible. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
And to that end, more specifically about the Tezos ecosystem. I know that you mentioned the sort of famously low ecological footprint of Tezos as being a thing that makes it a bit appealing, but are there other aspects of Tezos and its ecosystem that make it well suited to charity work in general?
Tezos, uh, you know, the carbon footprint thing is the biggest win-win for me for what I'm doing with Save the World with Art because of planet sustainability. A Facebook message uses about 4 grams of carbon, or a text message. A Tezos transaction is significantly lower than that. And uh, as far as what it's doing to evolve, their smart rollups, their work with Etherlink, uh, becoming more of an agnostic kind of central place for cryptocurrency
Mm.
is a huge development, and it's something that I see a lot of value in because everyone's in competition. All of these blockchains are in competition with each other. But how do we tie them to each other to where they're handshaking? They're the first ones to really go out and try to actually do that, and to not only do that, but partner with and make open source protocols and connectivity and make it more decentralized, which is the idea behind blockchain technology. A lot of these other blockchains, they preach decentralization, but they're not decentralized,
Yeah.
and they're owned by corporations, and their servers are owned by corporations. But all these nodes, anyone can go on to GitHub and download and create their own RPC node. And I mean, I've tried it. Anyone can do it. It's pretty cool that you can own Tezos and run something with it.
Mm.
It and all the documentation that's out there for it, so it's pretty easy to access. So, um, as far as using it for what you're trying to grow or build in Web3, you're going to be better off than you are with all these other places that take all these fees and take all these royalties off the top of everything you're building.
Mm. All right. Well, I have lots more questions and we could go on all day, but unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. To all our viewers, thanks for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. James, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks putting blockchain technology to work, making the world a better place. Is there anything else you'd like to mention or plug before we sign off here?
I just want to play a little blues lick for you. There you go.
Lovely. That's a first for us here at TezTalks. Thank you very much. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been James Lee, aka Jams to Blues, founder of Save the World with Art. Now let's go show the world what the Tezos ecosystem can do to help it.